The council was desperate now. 3 fleets gone, 1 elite team lost, and no answers. The human warship still hadn't moved, hadn't fired, hadn't spoken at least not the way the galaxy understood speech. And yet, everything it did was lethally dangerous because it didn't need to shout. It didn't need to threaten, it only needed to remain quiet, and every second it stayed silent. More systems across the galaxy began to whisper about it. People in distant colonies had started dreaming about a black shape in the sky. They heard a hum in their sleep, a low, steady pulse. Thump, thump. Governments dismissed it as panic. But scientists found something they couldn't explain. Every planet that had ever attacked a human colony in the past 100 years had one thing in common. Their stars had begun to dim, not explode. Collapse. Just dim. As if light itself was being pulled away. They sent probes. None returned. The council knew something had to be done, not another fleet, not another attack. Message, a voice. So they chose someone rare. Someone who had once known the humans before the war. Ambassador Trevor Soule. She was old, one of the last who remembered. Humans before they were hunted, before they were called extremely dangerous. She was calm, wise, respected, and she didn't fear the silence. Not yet. Trevor's ship approached. Slowly, no weapons, no guards, just her. And a single transmission beacon. She opened a channel, spoke softly. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said, "only understanding." She waited, nothing, then she tried again. "We lied about what happened. We feared you, because you were different." Still nothing. Trevor looked at the warship through her window. It hadn't changed, just floating in the dark, motionless, and yet, every sensor screamed that it was alive. She spoke again. "You tried to build peace. We broke it. You offered trust. We turned it into fire." Then she paused, looked down, and said the only thing the galaxy had never said out loud. "I'm sorry." Her voice trembled. "I'm sorry we turned you into this." The silence grew deeper, and then, the warship moved, just slightly. A tilt. A shift. Its black surface rippled, like water touched by wind. Trevor felt it before she saw it. A presence, a pressure in the air, something ancient, and watching. And then her ship's screen turned on by itself. No signal. No command. Just words. 5 words, typed slowly, one at a time. "Why now do you speak?" Trevor's hands shook, but she replied, "Because silence became too loud." The screen blinked. Too late. Trevor swallowed hard. "Then let me carry your words. Let the galaxy hear your truth." Another pause. Then, a strange thing happened. Warship opened, not fully, just a crack, enough to show something impossible. A room inside filled with stars, not real stars, memories of stars, millions of voices, recorded in light. Human voices, laughing, crying, begging, singing, children, soldiers, scientists, mothers, refugees, all speaking at once, like one great storm of memory, and in the middle of it all a single voice rose, not angry, not cold, just tired. "You used to hear us," it said, "but then you called us dangerous." Trevor listened, tears in her eyes. "You feared what we could become, so you pushed us, over and over, until we stopped trying to be peaceful. You created this warship. We did not build it, we became it." Trevor spoke carefully. "We can't undo the past." "No," the voice said, "but you can feel it." Suddenly, Trevor was no longer in her ship. She stood on an Earth that no longer existed. Fires burned in the distance. Skies black. Children screamed. She felt the fear, the silence. The moment humanity was forgotten. The moment they knew no one was coming to help. She saw the first time a colony was erased. Not attacked, erased, as if it had never existed. And then, the moment the first human ship stopped sending messages and started listening instead. She understood now. The warship wasn't a weapon, it was a grave, a floating cemetery of voices, and also a final warning. "You keep calling us dangerous," the voice said, "but you never asked what made us that way." Then Trevor was back in her ship. Alone. The screen flashed once more. "We have already spoken," and the connection ended. Trevor returned to the council. She told them everything. But many did not believe. They still wanted to send more ships, still wanted to fight, still believed power could silence memory, but others began to listen. Some started uncovering old records, unsealed truth, admitted crimes. The silence had changed something, not everywhere. Not for all, but for some. And that was enough, because the human warship had finally spoken, and its voice was not made of sound, but of scars. Memories. Warnings. In quiet rage. Not all believed, but those who did never slept the same again. Because now they knew Silence was not absence. Silence was a choice, a boundary, a final line, and the galaxy had already crossed it. No one wanted to go near it anymore. The human warship hadn't moved. It hadn't spoken. It hadn't fired. But every fleet that went near it ended in silence. Not death, not destruction, just nothing. And that was worse. Death made sense. Silence did not. The Galactic Council was panicking behind closed doors. They no longer laughed. They no longer mocked. Now they whispered late into the night about how something had gone wrong, how humans were never supposed to be like this, how the warship was never meant to be real. It was no longer about military action, that it was about fear, so the council made a new plan, not an attack, an infiltration. They selected their best. Team. Elite, cold, professional 5 soldiers, each from a different species. They called themselves Black. Silence. They didn't ask questions. They didn't panic. They didn't feel fear, or at least, they said they didn't. Their job was simple. Board the human warship. Scan everything. Find the source of the signal. Get out. But everyone watching knew one thing. This was not just a mission, it was a gamble. A dangerous one. Because they were not just entering enemy territory, they were walking into something dangerous. The infiltration ship was made from the most advanced stealth tech in the galaxy. No heat signature, no noise. No light trail. As they approached the warship, it still looked the same. Black. Smooth. Dead. No weapons, no lights, no engines. Just floating there like a ghost. One of the team, a female shard named Lyra, stared at it through the glass. It looks like a coffin, she whispered. The leader, Commander Drez, shook his head. No, coffins stay closed. This one's waiting. They docked. The airlock opened. No alarms. No defense systems. Nothing. They stepped inside. It was dark. Not normal dark, but deep. Perfect blackness. Even their suits' flashlights barely cut through the shadows. The walls were strange. They weren't metal. They felt soft, warm. Alive. As they walked, the ship made no sound, but they felt like something was listening, like something was following. The first room they entered was empty, just a single chair in the center, facing a wall. No controls, no wires, no sign of life. On the wall behind the chair, someone had written something. 5 simple words, scratched deep into the surface. This is where it ends. No one said anything. They moved deeper as they went. The ship began to change. The corridors shifted behind them. The layout made no sense. Rooms appeared and disappeared. 1 minute they were walking in a circle. The next, they were in a room none of them remembered entering. Lyra suddenly froze. Her breath caught. There's something here, she said. Commander Dress turned. What? She pointed there on the floor. They looked down. Nothing. Just smooth black surface. But Lyra kept staring. There's a memory here. The others didn't understand. Until suddenly, without warning, the walls lit up. Not with lights, but with images. Moving images. Memories. They saw a human city burning. Children crying. Ships falling from the sky. Alien soldiers council through ruins. One of the team stepped back. That's not possible. We never did that. But another team member, Ralika, former council war historian, stared with horror. I've seen that before. In old data archives. Covered up. Hidden. Commander Drez narrowed his eyes. Then this ship is showing the truth. More images appeared. Humans in cages. Experiments. War crimes. Betrayals. Broken treaties. False peace. We were told humans started the war, one whispered. But the ship was showing the opposite. That the humans had begged for peace. Had tried to escape, and were hunted anyway. I think this ship is alive, said Lyra. It remembers everything. They moved forward again. The ship now began to show not just images, but voices. Soft, broken, angry. You took our homes. You called us dangerous. You made us become what we are. And then, suddenly they saw it, a central chamber. It was different. Bright. Not with light, but with presence. It felt like standing in the center of a heartbeat. Like being watched by something enormous. In the middle of the chamber floated a single human figure, or something that used to be human. Eyes closed, hands at its side, not breathing but not dead. Lyra stepped forward. I think that's the ship. Ralak scanned it. That's not possible. It's a person. Commander Dress corrected him. It's both. They stared in silence. The figure was floating in midair, surrounded by thousands of tiny lights. Each light showed a face, a name, a memory. We're in a living archive, said Lyra. A memory machine. No, said Drez. A warning machine. Suddenly, the figure's eyes opened. The room pulsed. The air felt heavy, and a voice spoke. Not from the figure but from inside each of them. It spoke inside their minds. You were told not to come, you were warned, you turned truth into lies. You called us monsters, until we became one. One team member dropped to the floor, gasping. Another screamed. The ship was not attacking them, it was showing them every life lost, every promise broken, every truth erased. They saw entire human colonies burned, ships destroyed before landing, signals of peace ignored. One by one, the team collapsed, until only Commander Dres and Lyra remained standing. The voice spoke again. You fear silence, because it reminds you of guilt. You fear us, because you know what you did. Dres dropped to his knees. He had fought humans, he had led attacks during the early purges, he had told himself they were dangerous, that they had to be stopped. Now he realized the truth. They were never dangerous, they were made dangerous, pushed, cornered, and silence had become their final weapon. The figure in the center spoke again, but this time, only to Lyra. You feel it, it said. Lyra nodded, tears in her eyes. You hear the quiet between stars, the voice said. You understand the meaning. What meaning? She asked. That when a species is silenced for too long, it stops asking for peace. It starts making its own rules. And then, everything went white. She woke up aboard her ship. Alone. Floating in space. The rest of the team gone. Her systems are EBOOTE. No damage. No time had passed, according to the ship's clock, but her body told a different story. She had aged, her heart beat slower. Her muscles had changed. Something was different. A transmission blinked on her screen. One line. From the human warship, you were allowed to leave. You listened. The council picked her up days later. They questioned her. What happened? What did she see? She said nothing, but one thing was clear. The human warship was not just a weapon, it was something else. A living memory, a final warning, a silent judgment, and it was still waiting, watching, listening, because the galaxy had not yet understood that, not fully. They thought they were playing a dangerous game, but they had entered dangerous territory, and they had awakened something that would not be silenced again. The stars were silent, but the galaxy was not. Thousands of ships moved together in perfect formation, like a sea of steel spreading through space. They belonged to the Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of many alien species. These ships were built for war. They had faced dangerous enemies, destroyed entire worlds, and crushed rebellions before breakfast. Now, they had come to destroy one last problem, a human warship. It was alone. It didn't answer hails, it didn't run, it didn't hide. It just floated there, silent, cold, and still. The council had expected to find an enemy. What they found instead was nothing. One ship, no fleet, no signals, no response. Council Admiral Vor shook his head and laughed. This is it, he said. One ship. After all the warnings, this is a joke. His officers laughed too. Reports had called the humans highly dangerous. Some said they had created weapons that broke the laws of physics. Others claimed they had survived in deep space for over 100 years, with no supply lines, no colonies, no help. All lies. The council thought they didn't understand. Not yet. VOR sent a scout vessel forward. Just a simple scan, a quick look. The scout ship approached slowly, light scanning the surface of the human warship. The hull was smooth, black, and strange. No windows, no markings, no signs of life. Then the scout sent one final message. Approaching hull, no resistance. Sending silence. The transmission ended. VOR frowned. What happened? The text checked everything. Nothing was wrong on their side. They tried contacting the scout ship again. No reply. One officer said softly, "Should we send another?" Vor hesitated. Then he laughed again. "Send 3. This isn't dangerous. It's just broken." 3 more ships launched. 3 more ships vanished. No explosions, no debris, no signs of a fight. Just silence. The warship did nothing. No weapons fired. No weapons fired. No shields activated. No movement. It just watched. Now the council ships started backing away, one by one, quietly. Admiral Vor's laughter stopped. He gave the order, "Fire all weapons. Destroy it now." Every ship in the fleet opened fire. Missiles screamed through space. Laser beams cut the darkness. Plasma tore across the stars. Then, nothing. No impact. No light. Everything just vanished the moment it touched the human warship, as if space had swallowed it. No explosion, no resistance. Just silence. Impossible, Vor whispered. Then his own ship powered down. Lights faded. Screens went black. Engines died. One by one, the entire fleet lost power. Every ship, every weapon, every system. Dead. In the center of it all, the human warship remained, Still silent. Still watching. No crew appeared. No message came. But suddenly, every ship on the Council's network received a transmission. Just one sentence. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a threat. Wasn't a demand. It was worse. It simply said, "You fired the first shot. Now listen to the silence you created." And then everything cut off. No more network. No more connection. The galaxy's greatest fleet. Defeated without a single human firing a single shot. Only one officer survived to speak of it. He drifted. For 6 days before rescue, when they brought him on board, he didn't speak. He didn't move. He just kept repeating the same word, over and over. Empty, empty, empty. The Council tried to hide what happened. They called it a system failure, a training mistake, a lie. But other ships started to vanish. Patrols near the human zone stopped returning. Signals began to change across space shuttle patterns. Strange pulses. They couldn't be traced. And always, behind everything, that same cold, endless silence. It was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of something waiting. Something waiting. Something dangerous. Something unpredictable. Something that had stopped asking for mercy. The galaxy had sent its armies. The human warship had sent silence. And silence was winning. The Council tried to erase the memory of the lost fleet. Officials called it an equipment malfunction. Some said the ships had drifted into a black hole. Others claimed it was sabotage from within. But the soldiers knew the truth. Something had destroyed the first fleet. And that something was not normal. It was quiet, too quiet, and silence now had become the most dangerous sound in the galaxy. Second Fleet was prepared. This one wasn't like the first. No laughter this time. No jokes. The commanders were hand-picked, hardened veterans, no-nonsense species. Ruthless and obedient, Admiral Threx led them. He was not like Vor. Threx didn't speak much. He trusted only cold logic. And logic told him something lethal had wiped out an entire armada in seconds. He was going to find out what it was. His ships were equipped with experimental shielding, backup generators, firewalls to prevent signal hacking. Every weapon system was triple-locked, monitored, and secured. The Second Fleet left Council space with quiet engines and cold hearts. They were not here to laugh, they were here to kill. They reached the last known coordinates. The human warship was still there exactly where it had been. Not a meter moved, not a signal sent. It looked like a ghost ship. Admiral Threx stood on the bridge of his lead destroyer and studied the screen. His scanners could not see through the human ship's outer layer. It blocked everything: heat, light, electromagnetic signals. It was like a shadow carved from stone. No damage. No change. No trace of the First Fleet. Even the debris was gone. When something strange happened, a signal appeared. Just a short pulse, no message, just a low repeating sound, like a heartbeat. Thump, thump. Threx stared at it. "What is that?" he asked. No one answered. The signal grew louder, not in volume but in presence, as if it wasn't entering their ears, but their minds. A junior officer clutched his head. Another began shaking. "Permission to jam the signal," one tech asked. "Do it," Threx ordered. They tried. The jamming systems activated. The signal stopped. Everyone sighed in relief, but then something worse happened. A different signal appeared. It was the same rhythm, but now it was matching the officers' heartbeats. Every crew member, every species, one by one, heart rates synced to the silent pulse. Panic began to rise. "Admiral, this is not possible," said the science officer. "It's not a weapon," Threx said coldly. "It's something else. Something far more dangerous." A stealth unit was launched. Small, fast, and silent. Its job: scanned the human ship from close range. It approached slowly. Inside the cockpit, Pilot Real kept his breath steady. He had fought in 5 wars. This was just a scan, nothing more. But as he neared the human warship, his lights began to fade. His screen turned black. Then, white, blinding white, he opened his eyes. He was no longer inside the stealth unit. He was standing on what looked like Earth. But it wasn't Earth. The sky was red. The trees breathed. Buildings floated. He heard voices, human voices, speaking in a language he somehow understood. "You broke it first," a voice said. "You broke the silence." Then a figure walked toward him. It looked human, but its skin flickered like data. It held out a hand, and when it touched Rael's forehead, he woke up screaming back in his ship. But now he was far away from the human warship. He had been ejected. How? No one knew. The ship he was in didn't match any council design. It wasn't even made of metal. It felt alive. They brought him aboard and ran tests. He had no injuries. But his brainwaves had changed. He could now predict incoming transmissions before they were received. He could finish other people's sentences. He could speak a dead language that no one had taught him. What happened to you? Threx asked him. Rael stared at him. It's not a ship, he said. What, that thing, the human warship? It's not a ship anymore. Threx narrowed his eyes. Then what is it? Rael's hands trembled. It's a message, a memory, a warning, a curse. A week later, another patrol went missing. Then another. Not destroyed, just gone. No trace. The council was scared now. This was not war. This was something else. Something that waited, watched, listened, and judged. Scientists tried to analyze the original signal that Rael had heard. They ran it through translation engines. They decrypted, decoded, reversed, filtered. And then they saw it. Hidden inside the pulse, like a shadow behind a whisper, was a voice. A human voice. Soft, calm, but full of quiet rage. It said only one thing. You sent armies. We sent silence. You kept pushing now. We don't speak anymore. The Second Fleet began to fall back. Even Threx, the cold-hearted commander, hesitated. But it was already too late. All systems locked. All commands failed. Screens turned black. And the silence returned. This time it wasn't empty. It was full of warning. Full of memory. Full of things the galaxy should not have forgotten, because the truth was simple. Humans had asked for peace. They had begged to be left alone, but no one listened. So now, they had stopped asking. And the warship, whatever it truly was, had only one purpose left. To return silence for every voice that tried to erase them. Not noise, not fire, not sound, just pure, quiet, impossible, nothing. And that nothing was lethally dangerous. It was called Elysium-9. Once a thriving human colony. Now, just ruins floating in space. No bodies, no signs of battle, just silence. Long ago, it had vanished without a trace. The council said it was an internal failure, but no human survivors ever came forward, and the truth was buried. Until now, after the encounter with the human warship, people started asking questions again, especially the younger generation who hadn't been taught to fear humans, only to forget them. A group of private researchers not working for the council decided to visit Elysium-9. Not soldiers, not spies, just scientists and historians. They called themselves the Truth Finders, led by a quiet but determined woman named Vera, a data archivist from the neutral planet Hela. Vera believed stories mattered, even when they were buried, especially then. The team landed on the dark surface of Elysium-9 under a sky that didn't shine. The sun in this system had dimmed so many others. They stepped into the ruins carefully. Everything was still. No wind, no sound, no light. And then they heard it. A hum, very faint. Very low. Vera paused. It came from below, a signal, constant, ancient. They followed it down through broken streets, into underground tunnels. Dust covered everything. But the deeper they went, the stronger the hum became. Finally, they reached a door. It was sealed but not locked, just waiting. When they opened it, the lights came on by themselves. Soft white. Inside, the room looked untouched. Screens blinked. Data pads glowed. And in the center, a table held something that stopped them cold. A message, handwritten, paper, faded ink. Humans still used such things when everything else failed. Vera read it out loud. If you find this, it means we are gone. Not dead, gone. We left, because staying meant extinction. We were not the threat. We were the excuse. They called us dangerous, but we were just loud in a galaxy that demanded silence. You don't hear us now, because you chose not to, not because we stopped speaking. This is not the end of humanity. It's the beginning of something you were never ready for. Everyone in the room stood silently. The message was dated over 80 years ago. One researcher whispered, "They knew what was coming." Another said, "They planned this." Their silence wasn't fear. It was strategy, but it was more than that. Because suddenly the humming stopped, and a voice filled the room. Soft, deep, not recorded, real. You've entered something dangerous. Everyone froze. No speaker, no source, just a voice, speaking from the air itself. You still think you're searching for the truth, but you're just waking up something that was trying to sleep. The lights dimmed. One researcher began to panic. "We need to leave." But Vera stood still. "No. This is what we came for." Another door opened in the back. Behind it, and rows of machines. Not weapons. Recorders. Each one held a piece of human memory. Voices, dreams, pain, music. Pain music. One machine suddenly activated. A child's voice echoed softly. "I miss the stars. They used to be bright." Another spoke. "My mother said we'd be safe here. She lied." Then another. "They came in ships. They didn't ask. They didn't warn. They just erased." And then, silence again. The message was clear. The world hadn't died in war, it had died in silence, smothered, erased. The team downloaded the data, everything they could carry. When they returned to the surface, the ship was waiting, but the sky had changed. Above them, far beyond the atmosphere, they saw it, the black shape, the human warship, the watching, silent, not attacking, just waiting. Vera looked up. It wasn't coincidence, it had followed them, or maybe it had led them here. Back on their ship, they received a transmission, no voice, just text. You found one, Echo. There are others, we will speak again when you're ready to listen. Then the warship vanished. No engine flare, no noise, just gone. The council tried to silence the team, said the recordings were false, said Vera had faked it all, but the data had already spread, across back channels, in secret forums, in pirate broadcasts. People were listening now and they were hearing things they were never supposed to hear. Songs sung in the dark. Final words of broken families, laughter echoing from empty stations, memories that proved dangerous because they showed the truth, that humanity didn't vanish, they evolved into something powerful, silent, and incredibly dangerous, not because of their weapons but because of their memory. The galaxy had tried to erase them, but they had turned silence into a weapon, a message, a mirror. And now the mirror was turning back toward the ones who broke it. The warship had not fired a single shot, not one, and yet, for more, military outposts had vanished. No explosions, no debris, no escape pods. Just silence. Gone. As if erased from time. The council met in emergency session. Again, panic was spreading. Whole planets were now refusing to send soldiers. Officers were resigning. Fleet captains were requesting asylum on neutral moons. People were afraid of what they couldn't understand, because nothing made sense anymore. How could a single human ship disable entire bases, without entering the system, without making a sound, without being seen? They called in the top minds, experts in subspace, stealth tech, psychic warfare. Every single one said the same thing. This isn't technology, it's something else, something unpredictably dangerous, and something they had no defense against. The head of Council Defense, Admiral Sorrell, gave a final order: track the warship, find its weakness, end this before it reaches the core worlds. He ordered the launch of Operation Silent Spear, 50 Shadow-class stealth drones, no crews, no emissions, total silence. Each drone was loaded with a quantum destabilizer to tear a moon apart. Their goal: find the human ship and destroy it without warning. No speeches, no mercy, just annihilation. The drones left in formation, cold, precise. The galaxy waited. 2 hours later, all contact was lost. No explosion, no distress signal, just silence. But this time, something returned. Not a ship, not a message, a drone only. One, it crashed into a council spaceport with no warning. It didn't explode. Instead, it opened and revealed a single object, a mirror, old human-made. On the back, scratched by hand, were 5 words. We learned this from you. There was no signature. No explanation. Just that. The message spread across every network, even those the council thought were hidden. People began asking questions out loud. Who started the war? Who truly was dangerous? And what had humanity become? In the silence, the warship appeared again, this time above a mining moon owned by the council. The moon was heavily defended. Turrets, interceptor fighters, orbital mines. The defenses locked onto the warship. It didn't react, it didn't fire, but every defense system shut down on its own. Every single one, as if they had chosen not to fight, not destroyed, not jammed, just convinced that something far worse would happen if they fired. And then, for the first time, the warship spoke to everyone, across every frequency. The voice was calm, cold, but not angry, just tired. You tried to erase us, you called us unpredictable. You used fear to silence truth. Now you fear the silence itself. The voice paused, then continued. This is not revenge, this is balance. You taught us that peace has no value unless backed by strength. You taught us that words mean nothing unless they follow silence. Now we speak with silence. The transmission ended. The warship vanished again, like a shadow never truly seen. After that, entire fleets refused to take off. Council leaders were forced into hiding. Worlds once loyal to the central government declared independence, and across the stars, people began to whisper. The humans had returned, not with armies, but with memory, but with quiet retaliation, with precision. They were not playing a dangerous game, they were the game, a game the galaxy could no longer control or predict. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It had become a voice Sharp, lethal watching, and waiting, and everyone now understood. This war wasn't about territory or politics, it was about truth, a truth buried so deep that it needed silence to survive. And now, that silence had become something incredibly dangerous, a message with no signature, a threat without words, and a promise the galaxy couldn't afford to break again. They no longer asked if the human warship would return, they asked where it would strike next. And more dangerously, they asked who it would choose to leave untouched, because now it wasn't just fleets being erased, it was cities, but only specific ones. Council command centers, research labs that once studied captured, human prisoners. Places tied to secrets, the kind the galaxy buried deep, the kind people were never meant to find. And always, after the disappearances, the same message appeared. We remember everything. The Council's grip began to collapse. All across the galaxy, systems broke away. Worlds refused to send taxes, refused to follow orders, because the Council couldn't protect them anymore. And worse, everyone now feared silence. A silent ship approaching. It meant something lethally dangerous was coming. A silent sensor blackout. Something was about to vanish. Even silence in crowded places made people panic. Shops began playing endless music. Stations, BROADCAST, static just to fill the void. Silence had become the new weapon, and the humans controlled it. Some planets begged for peace. They sent messages into deep space, said they had never wanted war, that they had always respected humans. Some of them lied. The warship didn't respond, but people noticed something strange. These planets were never attacked, as if the warship knew who was lying and who wasn't, as if it could hear truth inside silence. Soon, a new fear spread. The warship didn't destroy randomly, it judged, and no one knew how or what would trigger it next. Then something truly terrifying happened. On a neutral planet called Venari, thousands of citizens gathered in the capital to protest the Council. They waved signs, sang, shouted the names of human colonies the Council had wiped out. They weren't afraid anymore. They wanted truth, justice. They wanted the silence broken. And then, above them, the sky darkened. People looked up. A shape appeared. Massive black dot, not landing, not attacking, just hovering. The human warship, for the first time. It had appeared over a civilian city. No weapons fired. No orders given, just presence, like a shadow stretching across memory. The crowd fell silent. Some dropped to their knees. Others wept. They felt it, not sound, but weight, not fear, judgment. And then, a voice, not loud, not angry, just clear. You remember us. A pause. We will remember you. And then the warship vanished again. It was gone, but its visit changed everything. That city became sacred ground. They painted murals of Earth. They told children human stories. They played old human songs, not out of fear, out of guilt and respect. But elsewhere, the fear only grew. On another Council world, a group of politicians tried to send a last attack force, just in case. They planned in secret, used shadow networks, rerouted ships through dead systems, but it didn't matter. The entire fleet disappeared before it launched. All ships, all crew, gone. And when investigators checked the hangars, there was nothing, not even scrap, only a single word painted in light across the ceiling. No more warnings. Now, even the Council's highest officials were fleeing. One by one, they vanished from public sight. Some retired, some ran to neutral planets, some tried to contact the humans directly, begged for mercy, but there was no response, because the warship didn't answer fear. It answered truth, and truth had become the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. No one knew how it began, but by the end, everyone felt it, a silence deeper than space itself. Across star systems, engines stopped, signals fell quiet, no wars, no riots, just waiting. The galaxy had paused as if it was holding its breath, because the human warship had appeared again in the heart of the galaxy, above the Council's oldest planet Miradon Prime, a world where the first vote was ever cast, where the first human colony was burned. Now, it was time for the final answer. The warship hovered in orbit, its black hole blocking out 3 moons. No weapons visible, no escorts, just one ship, alone, silent, waiting. Inside Council Command, the last leaders stood frozen. Admiral Sorel stared at the screen, face pale. Why here? He asked. No one replied. They all knew why. This was where the silence began. The warship sent one final signal, but not across open channels, not through sound. It was felt in minds, a pulse, a whisper across thought, a message no machine could block. Everyone, Heard it. From soldiers to miners, from station workers to black market traders, even children, every species, every world, one voice, one sentence. We gave you peace, you chose silence. Now silence chooses you. And then ... it happened. Not fire. Not bombs, not destruction. Just ... absence. The council's planet flickered and disappeared. No flash. No explosion. No scream. Gone, as if it had never been. And in its place, stars shined again. Brighter. Cleaner. Free. The galaxy didn't cheer. It didn't panic. It simply ... understood. The silence wasn't a weapon, it was justice. A truth sharper than sound, a reminder that humanity had not been destroyed. It had evolved into something that didn't need noise to win, didn't need fleets, didn't need power. Just memory. Precision. And silence. The warship remained in orbit for one more hour, watching, saying nothing. Then it vanished one final time, and it never returned. But it didn't need to, because from that day on ... no planet dared speak of erasing history again. No fleet launched without reason. No leader ordered an attack without listening first. And across the stars, new monuments were built. Not statues. Not flags, but quiet places, gardens, empty ships, halls of silence, places where people came to remember. The human warship had sent no armies, only silence, and in doing so, it spoke louder than any voice ever could.